the show anyway, we don't need to advertise any matches. You're just gonna buy the show, you're gonna watch the show, you're gonna buy the network, and when it's over, you're gonna watch it again. You're gonna watch Raw tomorrow, you're just gonna keep watching. Because you're a mark.
About the only thing worse than a smark, aka a know-it-all wrestling fan, is an outsider who thinks they know everything about wrestling fans and the industry.
The endings are predetermined, so why would anyone watch it?
Whoever Vince wants to win is going to go over whether or not they have bad heat.
Yeah, those fans have to be complete idiots.
Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 12 myths non-fans have about professional wrestling and its fans. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos. Number 1. Fans think wrestling is real. Let's get this one right out of the way because it's high on wrestling fans' list of pet peeves about the grappling game, other than how the WWE has so much talent yet squanders it with stupid storylines every week. Once upon a time, wrestling promoters did whatever they could to protect the business, whether it was keeping heels and faces apart, not only in separate dressing rooms but having them travel and dine along strict divisions between heels and baby faces, or vehemently denying wrestling was worked.
Feel fake, huh? Does that feel fake?
This changed when Vince McMahon went public in 1989 with the admission that the results of wrestling matches were predetermined.
We in the WWF think that you, the audience, are quite frankly tired of having your intelligence insulted.
Vince McMahon's proclamation was made for financial reasons, as the WWF sought to avoid the regulations and fees associated with running shows under the auspices of various state athletic commissions. Despite this revelation, non-fans continued to think wrestling fans brought into their shows as legitimate sporting events. For whatever reason, non-fans can't understand that the people who enjoy wrestling are different than the people who attend a movie such as Avengers Endgame and suspend their disbelief enjoying the exciting story of superheroes battling supervillains. Do people who watch 47 meters down think they're watching real people getting chomped on by sharks? While there is always that small percentage of viewers who think that what they are watching is reality, regardless of the genre, wrestling fans are well aware of the medium's illusion of reality and simply let themselves be drawn into it. Number 2. The WWE is the only game in town. By the late 80s, most people associated the WWF with pro wrestling, despite the fact there were still several territories going as well as Jim Crockett Promotions. However, as Vince McMahon likes to say, perception is reality, and thanks to the WWF's presence on MTV and later NBC through Saturday night's Main Event and the Main Event, fans associated Hulk Hogan and the WWF with wrestling, much as people often say Kleenex instead of tissues. Even when the WWF stumbled in the mid-80s and WCW dominated the scene, people referred to wrestling as the WWF. Today there are seemingly endless numbers of indie promotions, as well as larger alternatives like Impact and Ring of Honor. Throw in New Japan Pro Wrestling and AEW and it's clear the WWE isn't the only game in town. Just try explaining this to a non-fan though when you're watching New Japan Pro Wrestling and they say, "I didn't know you liked that WWE stuff." Ooh, believe us, there's a big difference. Number 3. The ring is soft. You've probably heard those stories of how the wrestling ring is soft and more like a trampoline than anything. While the wrestling ring has some padding, it's still no fun landing on it, either on your feet or worse, on your body.
What on earth? Oh my God! The ring just imploded!
Generally speaking, a ring is comprised of a semi-flexible metal frame with plywood over it, a thin layer of padding, and a canvas on top of everything. Add in ring ropes that are often steel cable with rubber coating that provide additional wear and tear, and you have an environment that grinds down competitors, especially when they perform multiple nights on a weekly basis. Number 4. Wrestlers don't get injured. If wrestling is fake, don't you feel like punching someone in the nose when they say wrestling is fake? Then how can wrestlers ever get injured? While wrestlers pride themselves on performing moves that look murderous but are actually harmless, accidents do happen. It really would take a true ignoramus to watch wrestlers bouncing back and forth in the ring, jumping off the top rope and going through tables, yet thinking there's no chance for injury. The biggest difference between wrestlers and laypersons is that wrestlers continue training themselves, reducing the margin for error greatly, assuming their opponent is equally trained. Nonetheless, fans have seen accidents happen all too many times. All it takes is a stiff shot instead of a worked punch, such as Nia Jax breaking Becky Lynch's face, and a wrestler gets hurt. A wrestler performing high-flying moves only has to land wrong and they could be out for months, with anything ranging from muscle tears to broken bones. Well, the next time your friend who doesn't watch wrestling asks how wrestlers get hurt, ask them how stunt performers get hurt despite safety precautions. Number 5. The blood is fake. While even the simplest of non-wrestling fans won't ask if wrestlers use ketchup for blood, there are still many people who don't know about blading, instead thinking wrestlers use blood capsules.
Well, you take it out like that. You go just like that.
Whether or not you agree with the practice of blading, blood capsules are usually only reserved for when wrestlers do internal bleeding angles, chomping down so it looks as if they're coughing up blood. While the WWE has no blood policy, with the rare exceptions including when a wrestler is busted open the hard way, other promotions don't. For example, AEW's pay-per-views are known for their use of blood, and it's achieved the way it's been done for decades, with wrestlers cutting themselves open, usually with a blade secreted on their body, or sometimes handed by the referee. The only suspected use of a blood capsule is when Triple H attacked Roman Reigns on Raw back in February 2016. A fan took a video of the incident, and it appears announcer Byron Saxton passes something to Roman believed to be a blood capsule. Number 6. Everyone uses steroids. The success of muscle men like Hulk Hogan and the Road Warriors led to a dramatic change in physiques of many wrestlers. While professional wrestlers have often been larger-than-life figures, things rose to a new level as everyone seemed to think all they needed to succeed in wrestling was Hulk Hogan injectable vitamins.
Just hang on to the largest back in the world.
And during the 80s, there was an abundance of steroid use, particularly in the WWF, as even the smallest wrestlers put on 20 to 30 pounds of muscle seemingly overnight. Just as the WWF became synonymous with wrestling, so too did roided-out muscle men become associated with wrestlers. While we can't comment on what other performance-enhancing drugs are being used today, it's clear there are a good deal of performers outside the WWE who aren't jacked up on steroids or similar performance-enhancing drugs. Number 7. Wrestlers act like their characters in real life. It wasn't that long ago that many wrestlers played their characters during appearances on talk shows, and while this has changed, non-fans often mistake wrestlers' on-camera personalities for their real-life nature.
Savage. Fuck you and fuck your wife. I have a tenant.
In some cases that's true, just as actors who play villains are sometimes jerks in real life, but every case should be taken on an individual basis. Case in point, the Big Red Machine Kane, whose on-screen character couldn't be further from that of his real-life identity, Glenn Jacobs. Jacobs is currently serving as mayor for Knoxville County, while his character Kane would likely be serving time for various felonies he's committed in storylines. Number 8. Wrestlers rehearse their moves. Many wrestling fans know that wrestlers go into a match with a general idea of where things are going, as well as who is winning, and then they call their moves in the ring, creating a spontaneity that can help them play off the crowd. In some cases, wrestlers rehearse their matches, such as the recent Royal Rumble, but even then, it's usually a basic rehearsal as compared to a move-for-move walkthrough, although we have seen NXT stars rehearse their matches, something different given the Black and Gold brand's developmental nature. Now, there have been instances of wrestlers like Macho Man Randy Savage who rehearsed every move with their opponent, but this was on paper, not in the ring. Number 9. Wrestling is a bad influence on kids. Whether it's wired into them genetically or some other reason, kids are known for their ability and desire to mimic things they see, likely part of the learning process. Professional wrestling is no different, as kids who watch wrestling like to perform the moves.
You can't see me.
A quick look at YouTube will show all sorted videos of kids, and probably even more of adults, emulating moves. This is no different than kids watching an action movie and recreating their favorite scenes. Like anything, it's up to the parents to monitor what their kids watch and whether they know the consequences of trying moves. Number 10. Wrestlers aren't athletes.
The greatest professional athlete in the world today. Look at this.
While wrestlers cooperate with their opponents, making moves such as body slams and suplexes easier than they would with an unwilling partner, it takes a physical specimen to perform these moves, and that's just the beginning of what it takes to be a wrestler. Wrestlers have to stay in shape, even if they look like heavy machinery's Otis, maintaining strength, flexibility and conditioning in order to perform their matches. Many of today's wrestlers also execute high-flying moves that require agility, speed and perfect timing, otherwise they risk seriously injuring themselves or an opponent. While professional wrestling is not a sporting event in the classical sense, wrestlers are athletes on par with any sport. Just ask any of the athletes from sports such as MMA, football or boxing who have entered the ring and discovered its rigorous requirements. And did we mention that there's no off-season? Number 11. Wrestling fans are idiots. What kind of person watches fake fights and believes anything they see on television? For some reason, non-fans look down on wrestling fans as short on brains, despite fans being made up from anyone from blue-collar workers to professional athletes, doctors, and every profession under the sun. By now, it's clear wrestling fans know the matches are predetermined and that it's entertainment like film or television, so there's no fooled you factor. However, as we'll see, there's another reason non-fans look down on wrestling, and it's fans. As number 12, wrestling fans are scary. Smelling of assembly line junk food hugely consumed, the look is of people who consume it habitually and at length, overfed and undernourished, eruptive of skin and flaccid of form, from the merely soft to the grotesquely obese. No, that's not a description of wrestling fans, but a description of a Trekkie from a news story in the 70s. The reality is that Trek fandom is made up of an amazing cross-section of individuals, much like wrestling fans. Like any devout fan, wrestling fans are pigeonholed into a ridiculous one-size-fits-all description when they come from all walks of life, as we just mentioned. Wrestling has its share of oddballs, but this is no different than any other fandoms with their delusional fans, whether it's soap opera viewers who think the characters on screen are real people, K-pop fans who maim themselves in ill-thought attempts to get a star's attention, or fans who stalk any sport or entertainment medium's performers. These are the exceptions, and professional wrestling is no different. The bottom line is that fans from one medium like to look down on fans from other mediums just to make themselves feel better and to avoid the stigma of their own fringe fans, whether it's Tim Tebow stalkers New England Patriot fans who dress up as Jigsaw from the Saw film series, or fans of movie stars trying to assassinate a president to impress their crush. Yes, John Hinckley Jr., we're talking about you shooting Ronald Reagan in order to impress Jodie Foster. Ultimately, non-fans' disdain for wrestling fans is akin to throwing rocks in a glass house. But there you have it guys, 12 myths non-fans have about the wrestling industry. Have you ever heard of any of these myths from people who don't watch wrestling? Be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.